You know, you might think it's been a while since Kappo and The Rev went to Avonlea for a chapter of Anne of Green Gables, but we're from a simpler time.
Timeless.
Things didn't have to go so fast back in Anne of Green Gables days. You'd send a letter, you might not get it for 6 weeks, 6 months, a year.
Or are we not doing the thing where we both talk during this?
You know, it's all good.
Oh.
Let's talk.
2 years.
10 years.
A decade.
Chapter 15 might not come out until the AI has fully taken.
We're not doing it until Vaudry sends us a letter by parcel post.
And welcome back to Kappo and The Rev's Anne of Green Gables.
Anne was happily sitting in the kitchen, peeling a large pile of cucumbers and humming Nellie in the Hazel Dell, when she heard the sound of Marilla's heels clicking down the stairs with a terrible vigor. At first, Anne thought that the rhythm was coming from her imagination, as Katie Morris was tapping along with the melody, but much to her dismay, the pounding sound got far too loud for a window friend, and it became obvious that Marilla would soon enter the scene.
Anne turned to Katie and said,
"Oh, I'm in deep trouble now, aren't I, Katie?"
But Katie had already retreated to the cracked window of the garden shed. "Anne, have you seen my nice amethyst brooch?"
Marilla said without so much as a proper Avonlea greeting. "You threw it at Angus just last chapter, Marilla,"
Anne said, very matter-of-factly. "Nonsense, I threw several lesser brooches. And even if I had, Angus would have retrieved it for me."
Marilla stated plainly, never to be caught in such a simple logic trap as this.
Anne's mind raced as she remembered each and every occasion that she had played with this particular brooch, as she had taken every opportunity to do so and had been for several weeks. She knew she had always placed it exactly right back upon the pincushion, but there was an outside chance that it was still pinned to her doll Nellie in the make-believe Hazel Dell in the corner of the East Gable room.
Anne searched herself for the proper line of scripture to quote to get her out of this one, but for the first time she was coming up blank when it came to biblical obfuscation. "Yes, Marilla, I have played with it."
"Did you take it out into the fields and lose it?"
Marilla shouted, holding back a bitter tear. "No, Marilla, I swear to you I only pinned it on myself and then onto my doll, but I put it directly back onto the pincushion, just like I always do,"
Anne said hopefully. "Always do?"
Marilla shouted and cocked back her arm to strike Anne, but rather she picked up a handful of brooches from a nearby crystal dish. "Marilla, please! I didn't take the brooch,"
Anne pleaded.
"You have hundreds of brooches. They're everywhere here at Green Gables."
"The one brooch is gone, and you were the last one to handle it,"
Marilla stated as she began to calm down, and she returned the brooches to the dish and looked at Anne with cold, dark, broochless eyes. "I swear on my life, Marilla, I didn't take the brooch."
Anne began to cry. "Oh, really now? You're telling me a falsehood, child,"
Marilla said with the look of a hangman tying a noose or sharpening an axe head.
The front door creaked, and Anne and Marilla looked over to see Matthew staring through the door with a look of horror in his eyes. He had one time pinned the brooch on when he thought Marilla was at the ladies' auxiliary meeting, but Marilla had left the meeting in a huff and returned early. That was the last time Matthew had been upstairs at Green Gables, until the heart-touching scene from Chapter 5.
Matthew scuttled away, looking over to the 3 child-sized mounds in the backyard with a tear in his eye. He sauntered towards the large fire that had been lit in the east field as Angus Iverson danced around the flames, chanting, "Brooch! Brooch! Brooch! Brooch!"
Marilla grabbed Anne by the nape of her neck and began dragging her towards the front door, out to the pyre and that awful chant as all 3 grunted, "Brooch!" Rachel Lynde could be seen waddling up the drive, hair wild, screaming,
"Marilla! Brooch! Brooch! Brooch!"
As Anne's face met the terrible flames, her red hair lit a fire and she screamed, Anne awoke, gasping for breath, a knife in one hand and a pile of unpeeled cucumbers beside her.
Oh my word, it was just a bad dream.
She scampered up the stairs, threw the door open to her room, and to her horror, she saw that the brooch was not pinned to the doll at all. Anne leapt into Marilla's room and saw the empty pincushion and broke into a cold sweat. She turned slowly towards the door and saw a ghostly figure standing before her.
Oh, Marilla!
Anne gasped.
You frightened me.
Why, child? I'm simply here to retrieve my
But Marilla stopped short when she saw the empty pincushion.
What have you done with my brooch?
Marilla exclaimed.
It was just here yesterday, and now I find it gone, and you here in my room sweating like a White Sands madam in a Lutheran church.
I didn't touch the brooch, Marilla. I swear to God I didn't.
Anne said, flying into a near panic. Matthew called up the stairs.
Would you two stop talking about that brooch? It's right here, Marilla, pinned to your blouse. Now hurry up, we're late for the picnic. Anne and Marilla looked at each other with a deadly stare, having each know the other was about to do something desperate. But now it was time for the picnic, and all would be forgotten until the next chapter of Kappo and The Rev's The Brooches of Green Gables.
I regret bringing that godforsaken brooch to Green Gables all those years ago. I bought it from a shambling gypsy who warned me that it would either get Marilla to fall madly in love with me or turn her into a joyless spinster. And now that thing is going to get a hold of Miss Shirley as well unless something can be done. Oh, brooch.